edge glue panels or one by material? What's the best option for your single piece flags and your American flag unions? We're going to figure that out today. After I got my CNC and started making separate union flags, the consensus was to make your unions from edge glue panels. I've had great success using edge glue panels for my unions, but I recently wanted to start making more single piece flags and wasn't sure whether to go with edge glue panels or with one by material. So that's what we're going to tackle today. So to figure out which one was best, I decided to run some tests. So I decided to assess 4 different things, 4 different criteria. Number 1, ease of selectability. Number 2, how well does it cut? Number 3, how well does it stain? And lastly, how well does it carve on the CNC? So to answer the question on ease of selectability, let's just watch this clip. Roll the film.
One eternity later.
As you can see, the panels win this category hands down. I spent so much more time trying to find a flat, straight, one by material board than trying to find the panels. The panels were ready to go. Let's move on to how well they cut.
Panels were already very square and had sharp corners, and the edges were very smooth. The one by material has some rough edges and the corners weren't the nicest, so they have to be cut a bit larger to then be cut to the correct dimensions to give you those nice corners. Also with the one by material, I did feel some binding or resistance going through the table saw. I didn't feel that with the panel.
Here on the top we have the edge glue panels, and here on the bottom we have the one by material. And as you can see here, we have the edges are really kind of rough on the one by material. You see that we have some chip out, and that could be part of the blade saw as well. But just in general, the overall edge is going to be a little bit more rough. So you know, you wouldn't want to slide your finger on this because you're probably going to get some splinters on it. The top of the material is actually feeling pretty good. It does obviously need some sanding, but overall it's pretty good. There is some wobble to this, and I picked the straightest board I could find, and I still have some wobble. So what if, yep, even when I flip it over, I'm still getting some wobble. So we'll see how that translates on the actual CNC. Bringing in the glue edge panel here, we have no wobble. The material is smooth. Still could use some sandpaper. The edges are a lot better. I'm not afraid of running my finger down this edge. The one by material is a lot heavier. It feels, you can just feel it. It's more, I don't know if the word is dense, but it's just more solid than this panel feels very lightweight. But it's not breaking. You can't break the panel. Those are glued pretty well. Let's go ahead and give it a sand and let's stain it.
Let's talk about how they stain. In this shot, the one by material is on the left and the panel is on the right. When I stained the one by material, I noticed that the stain did not absorb evenly into the wood. There were some areas that took the stain really well and others that didn't. It almost felt like I was staining over a light film of wax because the stain was just sliding over it. You can see a bit of what I'm talking about here in this clip. On the other hand, the panel absorbed the stain very well and very evenly. In this clip, this is the one by piece. You can see that the grain is more visible and you can actually see the stroke marks. In this clip, we're seeing the panel. You can tell that after one coat, it's completely black. I'd have to do another coat on the one by material to get the same outcome. Overall, I'm pleased with the panel and how it stains. I'd give the point to the panel in this category. Let's now see how well it carves.
Before going into the clips of the CNC, I do want to make a few comments. To hold down the material, I use X-Fasten double-sided tape, both for the panel and the one by material. And I use brand new strips of tape for the panel and the one by board. Once I set my X, Y, and Z axis, they never changed. There was one mistake that I did make that I'll just let you guys know up front. On my panel, I carved my stripes using an advanced V-carve toolpath. On the one by board, I made my stripes using a pocket toolpath only. I should have used the same toolpaths on both pieces, but at least now we'll know which is better for your stripes when you're making single piece flags. Let's go ahead and jump into those clips.
In this clip, we're seeing the first half of the advanced V-carve toolpath, which is the pocket. One thing to notice here is that there is very minimal fraying on the edges. Once I switch over to the 60-degree V-bit though, the fraying was completely removed. Let's check out my real-time review.
All right, I really quickly want to do a quick review after the advanced V-carve has been completed on the stripes. The stripes are carved nicely, very nicely, all completely uniform. There is no stain left behind anywhere. The
fraying that I had after the initial pocket has been cleaned up by the V-bit. We have corners on the stripes, so that's a nice touch. Overall, very happy with the advanced V-carve on the stripes. So let's go ahead and start the logo next. When it came time to carving the logo, there was very minimal chipping, if at all, which is nice because pine tears out a lot. That's something that you may want to factor into your decision. Okay, so for my initial impression, stars came out great. There's no overlap of the stars into the text, so everything came out really good. I'm very happy with it. I didn't change the Z-axis for this carve, so everything is flat or within the margin of error that I would say is acceptable. Let's go ahead and change over to the 1x material and see how that carves. In this clip, you're seeing the stripes being carved out with the pocket toolpath. This is my initial review of the pocket toolpath on the 1x material. As you can see that there's a lot of fraying here. Let's see if I could just take a toothbrush and just take this off. It comes off pretty easily. Just needs a little bit of toothbrush action here. Let's run the other toolpath and see what it looks like once it's completed. Alright guys, so the CNC has just completed the flag on the 1x material. Let's talk about some of the differences here. I see a lot more fraying like I mentioned before, but this is easily removed though with a toothbrush. So maybe just your finger there. The fraying is a little bit more difficult to take off here on the edges, on the ends. Just maybe a little bit more effort, maybe scratching it with your nail will take that off. Something to keep in mind if you are using 1x material is that you may want to change your Z-axis when you're carving your stars or any logo or anything in the union. If you notice here, we have some really good stars down here, but as we work our way up, we have some rounded stars there. That could be for many different reasons. It could be that the board isn't as flat as I thought it was. It could be that the board isn't as flat as I thought it was when I placed it on the wasteboard. Due to the inconsistencies in either the flatness of the board or how I secured it, we can see that the text is not as clean either. We can see the outline of this inner part of the A, but it's missing. It did chip out the black part. Same with the R and the A up here. It's just not as clean as it came out on the panel run. So let me get this one cleaned up and we'll do a side-by-side comparison. I used an old t-shirt to remove some of the fraying, and I wasn't able to get it completely clean and actually took off some of the material that I shouldn't have. I know our video isn't about toolpaths, but I would definitely use the advanced V-carve for the stripes. Since I did do 2 runs, I was actually very pleased with how the 1x material carved the second time around. Without measuring the actual depth of the stripes, they seemed to be pretty consistent and all the stain was removed. Let me share a clip of the first run and why this stood out.
Initial reactions for the 1x material, there's more tear out or chip out there and more variety in the board itself, because this cut at 0.04 here, but you can see here as we went down the stripes, it was barely taking off any of the stain here. So that's just something to keep in mind.
So to correct this inconsistency, I had to run a toolpath again on the lower stripes just to get the stain off.
We haven't talked about unions yet, so these final clips are my reactions to those carves as they come off the CNC. Let's go ahead and check those out.
All right, guys, I'm cutting it short because you could just tell already this is not going to be a union that I want to use. Look at this round one here compared to these down here, where this is ideal right here. This is what you want, but mainly I think it's due to the board being uneven. Well, let's see if the edge glue panel works better. All right, so check it out, guys. This is with the edge glue panel. So much nicer. Everything's a little bit more uniform. Yeah, there may be some variety between these stars, but I think we're still within a margin of error that I am making up arbitrarily. So yeah, I think this is good. Brand new edge glue panel with a 60-degree V-bit. So much better, I think, in my opinion. I'd like the 60-degree V-bit.
All right, guys, so what's my conclusion? In my opinion, the edge glue panels win hands down. They allow me to get in and out of the store faster. They cut better, more easily. They stain better, and most importantly, they're more consistently flat, which allows for better carving on the CNC. So I'll be using panels from now on, right? Yeah, I think so. From a panel, I was able to get 2 small 11x22 flags, whereas from the 1x12x6, I was able to get 3 flags. Even Even though I'm able to get 3 flags from the 1x material, there were too many inconsistencies that I don't foresee myself being able to maximize my profit off of that material. The reason why I say that is because in the first run, I made 1 single piece flag and 1 union. You saw yourselves that the stars were rounded and the stripes didn't carve correctly. So both those pieces became unusable. I think I've said it in a couple videos now, but let me just reiterate. As a woodworking side hustler, I am trying to be as efficient as possible. And with the 1x material, I am not able to be as efficient as I could be. With the 1x material, I foresee myself having to reset my Z-axis more times. I have to do a lot more cleanup work on some of the lettering perhaps. As you saw in the logo, there are some tear-offs that now have to be fixed. As the saying goes, time is money. Let me know what your preference is below in the comments and if you've also had the same experience. If you do use 1x material for your unions or your single piece flags, are you doing any extra prep work before getting it to the CNC? While I like the panels better than the 1x material, what about plywood?